Flyweight bout between Jake Hadley and Malcolm Gordon, plus 345 for Malcolm Gordon, minus 345 for Jake Hadley. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 142 for the over, plus 142 for the under. We talked about Malcolm Gordon a little bit earlier against Muhammad Makayev. He was a big underdog, around plus 1,000, somewhere around there, and showed that he could put up a fight against a guy who has a lot of hype around him. And then he gets the draw against Jake Hadley, who has another, as much hype, but a lot of respect around his name and what he can do in the future. He's 26 years old. Dropped his UFC debut against Alan Nascimento, kind of got controlled for most of that fight. That fight pretty much took place on the ground the whole time. Comes out against Carlos Candelario and kind of puts it on him and gets the finish in the second round. This guy looks good on the feet. I mean, that's probably he's a capable grappler, but he probably wants to keep this fight on the feet if we're being honest. But who knows? Maybe he shoots a takedown on Malcolm Gordon. He's got 100% takedown accuracy, so can get it done. Malcolm Gordon, kind of a wild fighter as well. I mean, both these guys. I don't expect this one to last very long. Flyweight unders have been doing pretty well, and both guys really go after you right away. Malcolm Gordon, I think he's kind of game. He's kind of a live dog in this one at that price, plus almost 350. It's a flyweight fight. It's kind of like that heavyweight thing. Like the dogs are always live in a heavyweight fight. Dogs are always live in a flyweight fight. I think wherever this fight goes, could get an upset. I think Jake Hadley should win. I think he probably does win. But Malcolm Gordon might be fighting for his job. If we look at his UFC career, he's 2-3, and he's 2-3 in his last 5. So that's his full UFC career. Kind of needs a win here, and it seems like they're maybe setting him up to get him out of there. Gave him Makayev and then gave him Hadley, 2 up and comers. So maybe he fights with a little chip on his shoulder and pulls off the upset. But I'm going to go with Hadley for the pick. I don't know if I could touch that money line, though, with this being a flyweight fight. Not necessarily the highest level, but 2 solid fighters. I'll take Hadley. What do you think?
This one's got upset and parlay buster written all over it to me. I mean, yeah, Hadley should win. He's the better all-around mixed martial artist, in my opinion. He can hang on the ground. He can strike on the feet. But Malcolm Gordon, we touched on it earlier. He had his moments against Muhammad Makayev. He's beaten a couple of guys, and then the guys he's lost to, Sumaderji, who's a good striker, and he can find the chin pretty easily, and then Amir Albazi, who's kind of an up-and-coming stud too. So Malcolm Gordon will kind of lay it all out there to try to get the wins and get the finishes. And if Hadley's not careful, I think he could get upset here. I think Hadley should win. Again, I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen or I'm going to bet the house on it, but this is just one of those fights where Hadley, only 8-1. Gordon's going to have a lot more experience against, pretty tough fighters in some of his fights. Hadley on the ground, I don't necessarily think he'll have a big advantage, but Gordon has a lot of finishing capability if that fight does go to the ground. And he's a fast guy. So it's just one of those fights, man. I don't think Hadley's a good play, obviously, on the money line. I don't think he's a good guy to put in a parlay either. It's just one of those fights you look back and think, man, that was the one I needed to hit, and this 4-leg parlay would have hit. Something just, I don't know. Something's bugging me about this line, this fight. Yeah, something's up with it. I think even though Malcolm Gordon has, a handful of these losses on his record, and he's 2-3 in his last 5, I do think he's a better fighter than that. I think he's a dangerous fighter for having that record. Again, he's not going to sit back and play this thing safe. He's going to look to finish you. He might get finished in the process, but he will, at least, if you're betting on him, he will give your bet a chance to cash as an underdog because he is going to be aggressive and he is going to, he kind of has that kill or be killed instinct. So, for the pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Malcolm Gordon. I just Hadley, that fight against Alan Nascimento, it was kind of a hype derailer, even though he didn't have a shitload of hype behind him or anything. Coming off the Contender Series, people were high on him. Yeah, he was going to be a good prospect, but Alan Nascimento put a stop to all that. He did bounce back with a good win after, but it's going to be a tougher fight than people think. I think Malcolm Gordon isn't the worst fighter on the planet. I like the aggressiveness, and I like that big underdog number. Give me Malcolm Gordon.
Hey, you're going from Muhammad Makayev grappling to Jake Hadley grappling.
Exactly.
Might feel a little bit easier.
Yep.